Welcome back, fam, to the limelight. And I think I'm going to start doing these intros more often because I kind of want to start giving rundowns with the guests that I'm bringing on. Sometimes it depends. Maybe I'll still do the one-off intro while they're on the call when we do the interview. So I think it's just going to depend on the situation. But for this episode specifically with Greg Diamond, I want to kind of give you like an insight to like what we talk about and what he's up to and what we really, start discussing more so with his profession. And a little bit about Greg. Greg is a promoter, a drummer, touring musician. I mean, he's been doing it all for quite some time. I kind of got into a deep dive with how he started off promoting shows when he was just a teenager. We go over his whole timeline with him being in Like Moths To Flames, which is a metalcore band that he was a huge part of, that he is no longer with. And we actually talk a little bit about that too, as well as him being a promoter in New Jersey, specifically Asbury Park, New Jersey, with House of Independence. We actually played a show there recently with the local bands, The Ones You Forgot, Pop Alma, with Sales Ahead, and Greg promoted that show. Greg put that show on, so I'm very thankful for that. But he's been absolutely killing it in the scene in New Jersey with these shows. Like, he's put on shows with Anthony Green, which we talk about. He's put shows on with Lorna Shore, all of them selling out, by the way. Like, the dude just knows exactly what he's doing. And we talk about like why he left Like Moths To Flames to pursue promoting a little bit more. And not only that, I don't know if anybody remembers this, and you're going to find out though. He used to be the drummer and is now still currently the drummer for The Air I Breathe. They released an album back in 2011, which was called Great Faith and Fools off of Rise Records. And that actually was it for the band for a long time. And they just released a single called Nothing Feels Sound, which I'm going to play for you because they're not signed, so I don't have to get copyright strike. However, they released that single recently over the summer of 2021, and they're going to be releasing more music in the near future. We talk about that as well. So he is partnering up with, and he's working for Contra Crave as well as Video Official, which is like a distribution distro kid for music and such. We get all into that and everything. But I want you to check out this song, Nothing Feels Sound. Hope you enjoy the podcast. He's a really great dude. I'm so happy we have someone like him in the scene, and couldn't be more thankful to building more relationships like this, like over the time that I've been doing this podcast. So Greg, you're listening, you're watching. Thank you, dude. This was a good conversation. Welcome to the podcast. I appreciate you coming by, Greg. How did the Citizen show go, by the way? We didn't really discuss that at all.
Yeah, so really well, sold out and stuff, which, is great, especially at the climate that we're in more so. You're fighting more so than like, the always things, it's like, oh, there's so many shows going on, so many things in the market, there's blah, 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 or whatever. But, it's just like a different animal right now. But yeah, that band is just kind of like always been very consistent and always just, I don't know. I feel like they just have such a solid foundation and such like a, expansive fan base that it's like no matter what they're going to come, and it's either going to sell out or it's going to get closed. So that was yeah, it was awesome. And they just, I don't know if they've played, because a lot of these bands, they've been off for what, 2 years, year and a half, if this is their first tour back. So it's really, you definitely feel that too, which is important.
And standing on the outside looking at it for me, because I don't tour full time, I was like, obviously everybody's going to go on the road at the same time in a sense when we can get the green light. So I was like kind of worried about the competition, like not only for the bands, but like for the professionals behind the scenes like you and everybody else that promote and book and manage and etc. Like, has that been concerning at all when you go ahead like promoting these shows and such at House of Independence?
I mean, it was kind of one of those things that it was like, earlier this year, vaccines rolled out, people started to get more comfortable and stuff. So you're like, this is going to go one of two ways. This is either going to be like nobody's ready or everybody's ready. So, the first show I did back was Anthony Green. And, we did it on 10 days notice. We announced it and it sold out. And it was just like, I felt almost like we were getting into like some type of like renaissance of live music. Like we just, like everything's back, everything's going. We're happy. It's the summer on the beach. Like, and then every show after that, just everything that went on sale was just like doing a million times better than it, in my opinion, would have done, and whether that's, the artists or whatever, just kind of the resurgence of everything coming back. So it felt really good. Things got really hot and, they moved really well and stuff. And then it kind of, end of August into September, everything, when like Delta came out and then, the bigger corps, Live Nations and AEGs and everybody else kind of, once all the vax policies rolled in, everything started to get a little bit more, kind of like a little stagnant or kind of like, dived off depending on the genre, dove off, dive, whatever the proper English term is there. But, yeah, I don't know. It seems like now it's kind of like hit or miss, but with everything still going on, it kind of depends on your area. But yeah, we're definitely in uncharted waters over here this year. It's definitely been, something we'll look back on, I feel like, in 5-10 years, and talk about it and talk about how did you go through this? How did you deal with literally the rug getting pulled out from underneath an entire movement, an entire not even like career path, but entire world of things, the live music industry, really. So yeah, but I'm glad we're back.
Dude,
definitely.
seriously, yeah, it's been fucking brutal, man. And like I said, like I don't tour full time, but I have so many friends like yourself and like everybody out there in the industry who I've talked to on the pod and off. And it's like, dude, like this is their livelihood. This is their full time career. Like merchandise is a bread and butter in a sense to a lot of these bands too that are like mid tier to high tier still. So it's definitely worrisome for sure. And I'm sure there was like completely new difficulties that like kind of started emerging like as we started getting back into it. Like have you seen reoccurring like difficulties that you were like kind of shocked by, like from trying to get these shows up and ready to go?
Difficulties. Okay, so as being a former touring person, touring band member, whatnot, I was just like generally worried because, any tour I've ever done, right? Van, bus, whatever that may be, there's always in the first week or the second week, somebody gets sick, whether that's just like congestion or a cold or something like that. And then it immediately, every single person's going to get it. It's going to get passed around. It's kind of
Yeah,
like
dude, that shit's
everybody,
inevitable.
it's always going to happen. Something's going to happen. It's normally nothing too wild. So I was always just saying, I'm like, man, like how it shocks me that bands are getting around doing full tours and staying completely safe, completely healthy and stuff like that. Obviously you can take precautions, but it's like, if you're not one of those massive bands, playing like the bigger rooms and the arenas or stuff like that, and you have that level of separation and privacy in certain respects, like it's really impressive to me when bands can really lock it down and stuff. Because it's also in some respects, bands, you're going into different markets and you have friends there that you've seen forever and you haven't seen them in 2 years, and you've been touring for however long. And every time you go to Nashville or LA, ex-friends come out and stuff like that or whatever. And now it's one of those things, every tour has protocols. You can't go out to dinner. You can't do these things and stuff like that. And, that's important because if anybody pops, that's 10 days off the tour. That's, that could really, that's hell. So I'd say to me that's probably on the artist side and agent side as well. When they're dealing with this, trying to reschedule or move shows and stuff like that. And everything can change in a couple hours. So yeah, I'd say that's difficult. But On our side, booking shows, anything, not anything's been like too weird. Obviously, when like the vax stuff came out, people complained and whatever and cried about it, but people will cry about
Right.
anything. Show, oh,
Literally anything. They'll find a
time or
reason to
this,
fucking bitch
this
about
or this
something.
thing. Yeah, people are just babies about a lot of things. So it's like you can only coddle so much. But I guess kind of the only difficulty was just like there'd be some weeks that it's like you're announcing 15 shows because it seemed like everybody had the green light, some things were out, everything was going well. So everybody was like, yo, like let's get these bands back out, which I'm all for. So I'd say kind of that was just like, and a lot of venues don't have staff back, and they still don't, because you had to
Hmm.
furlough your marketing people, your buyers, your a lot of the, a lot of like your actual day of crews too, your production people and stuff like that. Because without live events for 18 months, it's like, what can you really do? So, but I feel like there was like a general consensus, like it was an all hands on deck, and everybody, it was like a stressful, but it was also like a happy stressful because it's like this is great. Too many shows, so many shows. Like that's a really, especially now, it's a good feeling to have.
Yeah, seriously. And like the crazy thing is too, like everybody's doing their best to stay away from that situation where like if one so like you were saying someone pops for COVID, like more than likely it's inevitable that majority of the party on the tour is gonna get it. It just happened with Next Deep's tour with Heart Attack Man and I think 0936 got it first. I saw them at the Franklin Music Hall because it's not Electric Factory anymore. And that they didn't say anything on Instagram. They just dumped off the show. Neck Deep had to play a longer set, and then shortly after, they're starting to come out on Instagram and social media like, hey, like we tested negative, this person tested negative, like we're gonna have to like shut down at least a couple of weeks before we can head back on the road and do all the refunds and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
And but they're doing their due diligence to stay away from that shit because they just want to tour. Like that's the obvious of everything. So
Yeah, and it's tough because like the bigger tours like that as well, sometimes when there's support bands in a lot of these rooms, like you're put together in certain green rooms, right? So you're coming from your vans and everybody's at, like you're stopping at the gas station, you're coming from the hotel and stuff like that. Then you all get put together, for the day. That's your spot. That's where you can go. You're saying, we're not trying to go to restaurants, we're not going to bars, we're not seeing friends. So it's like you're in the van or you're in the green room chilling. So it's like that's kind of the whole thing about like it's spreading and stuff like that, but also just so easy getting it. Even just living life, people get it in all different ways and stuff like that. And it's tough too because like one person feels sick and then it's like, oh well, it's just this person, we're gonna isolate them. But it's like, is that how it works? Like, so now everybody's like, oh well, we all have to like test negative for X amount of days. And even 3 to 5 shows for a band, that could be a dramatic financial shift, which a lot of people don't understand. And like, that's why, like, it kills me every time, kids on the internet or like when someone like, I've seen it so many times when they're like, oh, due to this or whatnot, due to COVID or whatever, we won't be appearing on the show. Then you read all the comments like, I drove 2 hours and, I booked a hotel and stuff like that. It's like, just so it's like it's insane the self control some bands show without just
seriously,
blowing at people. And I get it, you're a dedicated fan and stuff like that, but like read the room, read the climate, read the world of what's going on. And it's like, are you really gonna like lay into these bands or say I've seen such ridiculous comments and stuff like that. And it's like, right now it's like it's a privilege that we have live music back. It's not a
yeah,
right. You don't own it, like you don't like these bands are doing a lot. Like this is an insane time to tour, and for multiple reasons, stuff like that. And it's you got to know that going into it. You don't know what it's going to be like when it gets to you, or if the show makes it to you. And if it does, and you get a partial lineup or a full lineup, like you should be stoked.
appreciate it, dude.
Yeah,
Seriously, like, do you really think these bands like want to not tour? Like, this isn't
yeah,
their say. Like, they want to tour. They're just trying to do everything they can to fucking continue it on. But they're gonna have that everywhere. I think I got a first taste of it too. It was like literally peak pandemic, and a lot of the bands that have a good amount of discographies or they were releasing albums in general like during a pandemic, so like 2020, and someone said on the internet, why are they Dance Gavin Dance, why are they charging $25 for a ticket? That's insane. They should be doing it for free. I'm like, you're kidding me, right? Like, come on. Like, how,
yeah.
what else are you supposed to do to get money? Like,
And I remember that tour was kind of one of the first ones. I remember seeing a post. It was like it must have been the middle of March 2020, and like coming from a band that was on Rise, I saw, a couple of the Rise Records guys were out. I think it was Hollywood Bowl or something where that tour started. And it was like a massive thing. Obviously, the band is huge. And it was like, I don't know if that was like a bucket list venue or like a big, striving venue for them to go to, but it was sold out just like the rest of their tour,
Of course.
rooms or whatnot. And it was like they all went up and they had to cancel it like the day of. And it was like,
I
it
remember
had to
that.
be the second or third week of March or something like that. And I was just like, wow, like that. And to like, it's so tough to like explain that to a fan who's like, oh, I spent the $25 or the $30 ticket or something like that. But like at the same time, like you don't understand how devastating that is to the band, the agent, the managers, the crew, the label, like everything, because like that tour started, probably a year before that, 9 months before that, with the agent booking it, and then the management team, discussing support and getting all the bands together, agents sending offers, doing negotiations for all the support acts, and then like the management and the marketing teams and the PR teams putting all that all together, and then announcing it 5 months before it comes out, everything leading up to that and stuff like that. Like there's so much work and so many people behind that. And like, it just sucks when people are just like, oh, this, like you're saying, like, oh, they should play. It's just like, like, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on here, but it's like,
You
just
can
go.
say whatever the fuck you want.
It's just like literally go fuck yourself. Like that's literally how I feel.
Literally.
Not being in a band anymore, I feel like I be a little bit more free about that. But like, it's literally ridiculous to see what people are saying back to these bands and all these different situations and scenarios now. It's fucked up.
The amount of effort that everybody is literally pulling behind the scenes, and as well as the artists like that are promoting these performances, like to not have any kind of positive test and to make sure that everything can run smooth, has been like probably, from what I've been seeing, I don't know from experience obviously, but like it looks pretty fucking difficult at this point, like coming from like the regular situation of setting up shows and promoting and managing and marketing the whole tour and such. Like it looks a bit more difficult, because I'm sure the one big thing that has to change too is the VIPs. Like you still, I mean, like have you seen anything, have you been seeing like opportunities for VIPs where they're trying to make it like not so different, but like basically like have a distance from the band and such, like having them do something acoustic on stage? Like have you seen anything different from the VIP situation of everything?
Yeah, everybody kind of does it a little bit different. We've done a couple like different hybrid versions of it. So obviously, a lot of the VIPs, like I've been around recently, everything's masked because everybody, a lot of these things are meet and greets or a picture with the band. But a lot of these things the bands can knock out ahead of time, right? Like they can sign everything, 48 hours ahead of time. That's normally when the VIP sale closes, right? So how many people
Right.
are coming. You even know their names, the amount, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, you can pre-sign the posters, you can put the packages together, and then, you mask everybody. And if they want to do pictures, if the band's comfortable with it, the fan's comfortable with it, you can somewhat do that at a distance, or even if it's an up, picture out, the next thing or whatnot. But obviously, I think some bands might have pulled back on it a little bit, or they're just giving them their full VIP package or whatnot and trying to figure out. Or I know some bands do like the acoustic performance. They'll do a couple songs on stage, or they'll do a sound check or something like that. So it still provides a little bit of distance, and you can kind of do like a Q&A from a little bit of a distance there. But yeah, I feel like it's just something, every week, every city that you're in, depending on the mandate of their laws and the venue too, and the size and the specs of everything. Like, shout out the bands and the tour managers that have to constantly, change that and adapt to that as well, to make sure that, the fans are accommodated, especially your VIPs that are paying for all that stuff as well, coming early. Like, definitely need to make sure they're, taken care of.
Oh yeah, dude, for real. Like, I mean, perfect example is like the one of the last guests I had on here not too long ago was Rory from Dayseeker, and he guest listed me. It was cool as fuck because like, we had a good conversation, got kind of drunk and trauma bonded. But other than that, like fucking, I was like, dude, would love to see you at the venue, like if it's possible. He's like, dude, he's like, it's gonna be so strict. He's like, I would love to see you, but I'm pretty sure 99% of it I'm not gonna be able to, considering like, especially if the guy walks out there and they recognize him, then people are gonna want pictures. It's like, God forbid he catches it, and he
Yeah.
already had it once too. Like he just got over it not too long ago, so he's like, nobody's gonna take the risk to fucking get that. Like he's like, I probably won't even see the bands. Like they want to take it to an extreme level where they can just tour on this what was the rest of it before the pandemic shut the 10-year anniversary down, and yeah, and then get on to the next one. So which you also booked his or you're promoting his gig right now too, the Sleep Talk.
Yeah.
which will be House of Independence, the Sleep Talk album tour, which good for them. I'm fucking stoked. It's a great fucking album. I just discovered them this year. So it's like,
Oh, wow.
I was like, Jesus Christ, where the fuck? Oh, I call him from Caliber TV, dude. I was like, man, like, this band is so fucking underrated. It's so annoying.
Yeah.
Like, and now the whole band's getting the recognition they deserve. So, it's crazy. Yeah, dude. Let's like, I want kind of want to take it back though, because like I said in the intro, like, you are the drummer for the Air I Breathe, which you guys came out with a single recently, in June. Nothing Feels Sound. And it's so funny too, because like I had this segment on TikTok where I was like, bands we sincerely miss, and then I had one of your songs from the first album that came out in 2011, and then like 2 months later, you guys released a single. I was like, what the fuck? Like, did I just put this into like fucking real life right now? Like, did I just speak of the existence that the Air I Breathe is coming back? Like, I'm stoked for you guys. Like, when did this even become like a decision to do it?
Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate the thought in any world that we could put something together in 2 months. I wish we could. So this literally started. So I was living in New York City, and our bass player Colin was living in Hoboken. So it kind of started as like a pandemic project, right? So like we all started. So me, Colin the bass player, Cam guitar player, and Tony the vocalist. So we all kind of started pre-proing stuff all on our own computers and stuff like that, like writing it out, tabbing it out and stuff. And then I would go and pop over to Hoboken. It's just so funny. Like I'd pop over to Hoboken and go to Collins, and we'd sit there like spaced apart and masked and stuff like that. And we would just be like, sending stuff back and forth, like kind of just laying out some skeletons of some songs. And, we were like, these might be tape songs, but we'll see. And then obviously, like, and this was August of 2020 we started doing it, and it was just kind of like like a project, because we were all like either not working or barely working, because what everything was. And we needed something to do. And then it kind of started to ramp up a bit. We had like 4 or 5 songs put together, and we were like, okay, like I think we could figure this out and do it. So we started putting the pieces together. I reached out to a couple of my friends in other bands. Chris from Currents was one. And we were kind of like poking around and seeing, if we self-recorded this, who could we send it to mix? And, we went through a couple different options or whatnot, kind of put like a budget together. And we were like, yeah, let's just either do it song by song, or we'll do an EP or a full length, and we'll just kind of play it by ear. Let's just drop music. So got linked up with this guy, Jeff Dune, who's absolutely amazing. He kind of like also talked us through how to set everything up and record from home. So Jeff Dune, he works for Drew Folk, and he does, they do Ice Nine Kills, Fit for a King, Wage War, Chelsea Grin, a million things. And he's great, and he was like so helpful for us. Because like, we'd never like self-recorded things at home or anything like that. So we'd be like, what should we use? What DIs and stuff like that. So he was really helpful. But then, so we kind of rolled, and then we did the song, and then we got Nothing Feels Sound. And we did that. And then we were like, let's do a video. Like, let's do it right. Like, it's been 10 years. Like, we should at least come back and show us, and like stuff like that. So I reached out to Ben Lieber, who I've known for years now. He used to play in a band called Head North, and then I've just watched him just completely ascend in the video and the creative space. Really, that dude is amazing at what he does. So yeah, we did the video with him, and he had never done any metal stuff before, or heavy stuff before, or anything. So we're like, this is perfect. Let's get somebody a little bit out of the realm and not do a typical, because all the video ideas we threw together, right, were all the typical like metalcore like ideas. Like Warehouse or Dart,
or to be in the woods or something.
We're like, we can't do that. Like, we're all old now. We're like late 20s. Like, going to be 30 next month. We're like, we just got to do something that's just straight up. So
I can't believe I manifested that. No, I didn't do that, but
yeah, I think you actually did. But then we put that out, and there's a couple more songs up the pipeline that'll be dropping periodically through the next year. But we're just taking our time with it. We all have like full-time lives outside of it, and like not being on a label, no manager, no like nothing like that. We have full control and can do really whatever we want, and it's awesome.
Dude, seriously, because
So
like I remember listening to Great Faith in Fools. Oh my god, I just graduated fucking high school. Because Deliverance was like the song that always like caught everybody's attention. I think that's like kind of what blew the band up in a way with the music video and everything.
yeah.
Because that was the band was on Rise Records in a sense. So I mean, I guess you didn't have to worry about that like at all. Like, was the contract already like pretty much summed up when you were done with that album? Like, well, how did that? How did you get off the label in a sense? Like,
So what happened was is when the band broke up, the members kind of left in pieces, right? So Jesse, the guitar player, was the first to leave, and then our other guitar player Cam left, and we were kind of bootstrapping it together with fill-ins, and then me and Colin left May of 2012 ish. And then it was just Tony at that time as well. And then I believe he did one more kind of final tour with the band. And then, so we were on Rise, but we were also on Velocity Records, which was an imprint that was
that's
owned
right.
by Dave Shapiro. So I think it was kind of one of those mutual things that it was like, hey, listen, like 4 of the 5 left. I don't think we're going to do another record or anything like that. So they actually released the band from the label or labels or whatnot. But still keeping like great contact with, Sean at Rise. And then obviously jumping right into like Moths to Flames, like the next month after that, it was kind of just like an easy transition, continuing on in the Rise Records world. But, so they kind of like let us, like do whatever we wanted to do and stuff like that. And I think at the same time, though, if you're a label, if a band's probably not going to tour and they're not going to, do much, they're just kind of releasing it on their, like, just for fun to say,
Mm-hmm.
I think that they're like, kind of just like gave us, their blessing in a way and just said, do your thing. So.
Yeah, but plus you hopped right into like Moths to Flames for like 4 to 5 albums, so it was like essentially like you just like picked up your bags, like, I'm just gonna go fucking chill here, go on Warped Tour for a couple years, do some Brian Stars interviews,
Yeah.
fucking try to do everything you can. Dude, your hair was so long in that interview. I was like,
Uh,
my god, dude. I was like, I forgot this kid was even around at that time. Like, I don't know
Dude,
how he got all the big bands. I struggle getting like the bigger artists. And like, I'm not saying, wow, I'm not gonna talk shit on the guy, but I wasn't the biggest fan of him. But it's like he was getting all these big artists, and I'm like, fuck, I'm trying really hard to get these fucking big
yeah.
artists. He's talking to everybody, and like, oh man, but you guys were killing it then. And then you did that for, I mean, just recently you disbanded from like Moths of Flame. So now I guess the Air I Breathe, and you're promoting in a sense for the one company. That is that who you're promoting for on your Instagram, Concert Crave? Is that who
Yeah.
you're essentially
So
working with?
Concentrate, yeah, and then my main job right now is that I work on the label and artist relations team at a digital distro called Vidya. So that's
Okay.
actually a New Jersey-based distro, worldwide distro
I
platform.
saw that. It's like DistroKid,
Yeah,
right? It's like a third party,
yeah,
distribution thing.
it's honestly incredible, and obviously, in the space, kind of going back to the whole, like with the pandemic and stuff like that. uh, Once touring got pulled out, I think every band was like, whoa, how do we make money? I have 40 million streams or 10 million streams on Spotify and I have no money. Like, what's going, or whatnot. So I think that the streaming world and obviously the digital world really started to explode. And a buddy of mine at Universal, because I was working when I left like Moss in the beginning of 2019, I started working over at APA, Agency for the Performing Arts, underneath the great Andrew Buck, booking tours, with a bunch of like awesome rock bands, Judas Priest, Skillet, and stuff like that. And then, obviously through the pandemic, obviously ended my time there September 2020. And then, a buddy of mine at Universal was like, hey man, you should check out this, this awesome distro that's actually based in New Jersey. And I was like, wow. And I ended up applying and, having a conversation, a couple interviews, and been there since March. And it's been amazing to see that side of it. Like, working with labels and stuff like that, handling all of like, everything they do on the digital end, all of their releases going to Spotify and Apple, everything, YouTube, and then obviously the TikTok boom as well, dealing with
Oh,
that, dealing with a lot of artists in that space as well. So that's been something that's great. But, at the same time, though, that's why, my passion has always been some form of like live music or keeping that as well. So that's why I like still doing the shows and stuff like that in New Jersey. Just making sure that I'm still scratching that itch, and also all of that kind of works in itself together, right? Like I'm seeing bands that I've toured with forever and managers and agents that come to the shows, and I'm working with them in that way. I'm working with them on the distribution side. I'm working with them, in all different aspects of it. So that's something like I want to make sure that I'm still always like in the loop, so to speak, on everything that's going on.
Dude, I totally feel you on that. Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's tough because everything's changed. I mean, like 3 years ago, you needed a record label to do everything. Now you need like a viral TikTok and you can be on the Grammys. So it's like it's a crazy cultural shift and everything like that. And I'm just trying to keep up with it, and that's why I really do love where I'm at right now with working over at Vidya on the the digital distro end, because I just learn so much every day, and like of how things are moving and how things are changing and stuff, within the industry. So,
dude, seriously, and I've known you for about, I want to say, 4, almost 5 years, going into 2022, because I met you as a promoter at Game Changer World in New Jersey and How. And that's when you were promoting, and I got that's when we shook hands and started selling tickets and stuff. And you've obviously been doing it longer before that, so it seemed like you had like a really good schedule of like having your touring band with like Moths to Flames on top of like being at home when you're not on the road and still promoting and still booking shows and stuff. Like,
yeah, so I was doing both, right? So we played, like Moths to Flames played Skate and Surf in 2014, I want to say. And then I met the owner of Skate and Surf, who also owned that venue. And like Moss is from Columbus, and he didn't realize that I was from Jersey or whatnot. And like, hey, I have this venue in Freehold. He was like, feel free to come, book it or whatever. Let me know after your tour. So I booked that room from 2014 to 2017, and I was doing it on and off the road. So I would still touring probably 7-8 months out of the year, but every day I would still be like on my laptop, booking shows, promoting shows, doing the marketing, and then we had a really good team that was back home at the venue that would like run the shows and stuff like that as well. And that was a really great opportunity because that's where I met agents. That's when I learned a lot as well and learned how to put things together. And then when I was off tour and I was home, I would see all the friends that were coming through playing shows and meeting new bands and meeting new tour managers and, reintroducing myself to the local scene. Because I feel like there was definitely a span from maybe like 2010 and maybe 2014 that I was like totally out of it. Like I was totally in the tour, like, and then now I could kind of retouch back in on the Jersey music scene and see where it had progressed in those 4 years. And yeah, it was cool. I really enjoyed it. And that's why I liked it. So I could go off and tour and then come back and immediately be doing shows again, physically being there, not just like booking them from my laptop from wherever we were, around the world or whatever. But it was nice to be able to have both those things for sure.
So essentially when you started booking shows, like were you doing the DIY venues in a sense?
So the first shows, I used to book shows in like high school for The Air I Breathe, and we would play like Flemington, Elks Lodge, and American Legion, and
no, exactly what it is.
I would like either take my ShopRite money that I was making working there, and I'd pay rent, or I'd convince my mom to front me like $300 for the deposit for the VFW, and then the scene was popping back then. The local scene was popping. So we would do like 300-400 people for a show. And then like I would walk back to my mom and have like $4 or $5 grand and like just cash like in my hands and be like, hey, this or what, blah, blah, blah. I'd be like, I don't know what to do with this. I don't have a bank account. Like, I can't drive on my own yet legally, or whatever. So
that's awesome.
It's different, but I always loved it, and then that was the big thing about Tape too, is that like, we'd go and we'd play these shows. We'd go play, legendary Croc Rock in Allentown, because that was kind of where we were in Flemington, Hunterdon County. Like Allentown was an hour away. So that's where we could convince a lot of people to go, and we'd go and we'd sell 100 tickets to play with the Mirror. And, or a lot of the times, we'd sell some, and then like the show would go on or whatever, and there'd be a huge line of people down the block, waiting to get in, and we would go and just take our consignment tickets, our physical tickets, and just sell 70 of them down the line, and then we'd turn around to the promoter and be like, hey, we sold everything, and he'd be like, hell yeah, and be stoked. But we hustled. We were playing School of Rock a lot in South Hackensack, which was like an amazing venue, and you know, or we'd travel pretty much wherever. We'd hustle and we'd sell tickets and stuff like that for literally anything. But we realized we're like, to get in front of those crowds, to play in front of 1,000 people who have no idea who you are and you shouldn't even be there. Like, you have to hustle. You got to bust your ass, and that really did that helped us, and it taught us a lot of how to play in front of those crowds, how to deal with it. And that way, when we went on tour and stuff like that, and started when we had to play important shows, we knew what we were doing and we knew how to like carry ourselves. So it was awesome.
Dude, that is awesome. So essentially, like, what were if someone listening or watching like wants to book shows, I've met like plenty of like DIY promoters and such. What would you suggest for tips and tricks to like kind of like get these bands out there now, since it's probably a lot different since when you first started off, and say they're starting off right now in the new age of 2021, 2022? Like, what do you think would be good for tips and any kind of like mentoring knowledge that you've learned over the years from people you've worked with to like get these shows booked full?
In hindsight, things that I wish I did differently would be start small, get comfortable with it. So like, you don't want to book like, oh, I see these 9 awesome hardcore bands. Let me go put them in a Bobby's Coffee Cafe that's like a 25, a small little thing, and let me just ruin this. Like, it's like, start small, start with local acts, start with very low risk, shows or whatnot, because what you want to do is you want to build up the relationship with, one, the venues that you're doing it with, and two, the artists and bands that you're working with, because you don't want to be the sketchy guy. You don't want to be the person that shows up and they have no idea what's going on. Come prepared, come ready to go. And it also doesn't hurt if you can, before you do this, if you can reach out to people or venues that have run shows before and just talk to them a little bit. Like, that's always a big thing as well. That's why I learned so much, the Game Changer days, and even like, coming up, and like I was saying, selling tickets and stuff like that. You kind of learn and navigate what it means to do certain things at certain shows. And there's a lot of trial and error, and you got to be prepared for the worst and you hope for the best and stuff. But in this climate we're in, things change every single day. So it's like, like I said, start small and definitely be prepared. Have your shit together. Like, even if it's something as like, hey, let's coordinate for this show, or let's make sure I have a unison load-in time that the venue also knows about, and a unison door time that's reflected on the flyer, and a ticket price, and, just the small things. And people think those are boring. They want to book the coolest band ever, or whatever. It's like, you got to start small and figure out your processes and how you're doing things. I feel like that's really something I wish I did. I definitely just kind of threw myself into the deep end with a cement brick, tied around me when I started, because it was like, I'd book Tape, Texas in July shows, and there'd be like all these fights and moshing. I didn't have security. I didn't know what that meant.
Right, you're like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with all these big old fucking brutal men hitting each other?
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully I'm out of like, the statute of limitations on this. But yeah, there's so many mosh incidents and stuff like that happen when you're 16. You're at an American Legion. Like, I didn't even think about that. I was 16. So
yeah.
But yeah, I'd say, definitely be prepared, and definitely, come correct when you're going to do something like that. Don't be half, like, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Definitely be ready to go for sure.
Well, thank God you have security now for the venue you work for, especially when you book Lorna Shore and their new albums will fucking pop. And you're like, don't have to worry about that anymore, because that whole album, that song that made them go viral, dude, holy shit. Like,
I'd say that
was sold out. No, that wasn't sold out. Was it?
No, that was very sold out.
I was going to say,
6 weeks in advance. I think the hardest part about shows like that is just convincing the security not to mosh themselves, especially when a band like Lorna Shore or Knock Loose comes through. A lot of those dudes, the security dudes, they're fans too, so they see, and I have a great relationship with a lot of the people over at House, and the same kind of security same company that does like Starland and Lanes and bunch of the other rooms and stuff like that. And that's another important thing, another thing going back to shows. Make sure you have great relationships and you take the time to talk to everybody at the venue, bar staff, venue staff, sound people, stage people, and security too, because that's how you get the feel of the room, right? Feel of what's going on, what shows are working, what things, work well or not. Who's doing what's going on. But I love the staff over there, and I love to go in and they're like, oh, I saw you book this, man. I love that. I can't believe I have to work security for it. Like, I want to just, go at it at the show. And it's like, dude, song, pick a song and do your thing, and then put the put the polo back on after that. But no, it's definitely make sure all my ducks are in a row for sure if you're going to do anything heavy, especially in New Jersey, because New Jersey's different than anywhere else on the planet. So
Also, I think just at IMO, I mean, like, also go out to other shows and hang out with people, because I saw you at the Pure Noise Records tour, and I was like, what are you doing here? You're like, I'm just chilling. Like,
yeah,
probably hanging with friends.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
it was so funny because like the tour manager and sound guy for State Champs is this dude Matt, who I met, who he was touring with Fit for a King when we did a tour with like For Today and Straight from the Path, Plotting You, and then Fit for a King opened the tour. This must have been 2014.
Jesus.
I want to say, and he was out just as like a homie, a friend, like help drive, like very like just kind of like doing whatever, and he just built his all the way up. He tour manages Bad Omens, and then he does State Champs, and he does a million other things. But just like any other, you watch like your friends and bands grow and stuff like that. Throughout the years of touring, I love seeing guys that were, or girls, especially in this day and age as well, like really starting to ascend into like these huge positions of like being tour managers for these massive bands or these massive artists and stuff like that as well, and then like taking over a lot of positions and stuff like that. I think it's awesome. Like even Matt Vassar, who was a merch guy and a tour manager for Like Moths for a couple of years, he did Amity Affliction, he did Beartooth, and now he works with Greta Van Fleet. And it's like,
Oh my god, dude,
that's the same.
insane.
It's just like it's a work ethic thing, So that's also, I love to see the crew people do well too.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. That's like when we were on Warped in 17, Lauren, she was working for Skull Candy at the time. She was like basically she was basically taking care of the whole tent. It was the sponsorship that we had and such. But like now she's a TM, assistant TM for Billie Eilish. Like, what the fuck, dude? I was like, I love seeing my friends thrive like that, dude. Like,
Yeah.
it's like the best feeling in the world, because it's like, oh, I want to keep going. You know
Yeah,
I mean?
no, I think it's amazing too, because I feel like even when I started touring, even like the metal stuff, it was always just kind of like the same couple people. And then I feel like through the years and doing Warped Tour and stuff like that, there's really been a rise of a lot of different people that are coming in and taking these higher positions, because it's like, just because you know this or these people and stuff like that doesn't make you a good tour manager. It doesn't make you a reliable person or anything like that. So I feel like a lot of these kind of like phonies and fake people, started to get weeded out. And it's really like, your actions and, your words as well, and how you, associate. Because it's not only just doing your job, right? At the end of the day, you're coming back and you also have to live with 7 to 12 potentially strangers every night. And you have no idea what they are. You're there to do a job or whatever. And obviously you hope that they're respectful and nice and kind and stuff like that. But I mean, we've all heard the stories of certain bands acting certain ways or certain crew members acting certain ways and stuff like that. Like, it's a full-time job, like literally full around the clock time job, being a touring, crew member or something like that. So,
Yeah, well, it's fucked up because they take advantage of it. Because, like, I mean, I guess I see it in some bands where, honestly, dude, like, it's great when the community comes together and they call them out for it and kicks them off, like, whatever. I'm not gonna like say names because like they're non-existent anymore, which I'm glad they're not non-existent. But you can tell like what their actions were doing behind closed doors, and when it's brought to light, it's like, dude, please get out of the scene. Like, we're all trying to have a good time here. Like, we just want the best for like what we love to do. Like, for the love of God, like, we get it. You're super talented, but do us a favor, get the fuck out. Like,
yeah, no,
that shit.
Absolutely, especially like nowadays and stuff like that. And I think it even goes further than that. I think it's even, there's people that just like treat people like shit, and it might not even be, it might just like be like stupid shit, or even like ego tripping over stuff, and whatever. And I've been in instances, obviously, being in bands touring, never, like always being like the head honcho of anything like that. But a lot of times, there's like crew members of these other bands that get like the bigger bands, right? That get treated like shit. And then it's like, yo, like I'm like watching this happen, being like, like one of the opening bands or whatever, like kind of like watching these things happen. It's not like direct put downs and stuff like that, but like just some people think they're like hot shit, and they'll treat their person, go get me there, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, we've always been like, come hang out. Hey, when you're done, come hang out with us. Like, let's just chill. Like, it seems like people around you can't just like talk to you like a normal human. Like, how about you come hang out with us for a couple hours and we can shoot the shit and, talk about whatever. And like, yo, anytime you need to just a break, come over to our band, come over to this, come into the green room, hang out, like take your mind off things. So always trying to be like conscious of that as well, because it's, it's a massive mental health game too, being in the touring field. So that's some serious shit, like, 8 months out of the year, 9 months out of the year. And like, you're going and going and going for 6 6 weeks, and all of a sudden you get dropped back into reality. And what is reality? You're back at home. Like, do you have a job? Do you not? What's going on? Blah blah blah. So definitely a big thing there that I'm glad more people are speaking about and taking seriously. And like, I think that's it's important. I'm glad that it's happening now, at least compared to where 10 years ago.
That's also what I want fans to take into consideration too, because like I haven't really toured at a long period of time. The most what I did was like 11 days, and it's like some of these artists, when you do it for like 2-3 months, where you've done it, like mental health is a huge priority, and it's like sometimes these dudes are exhausted, like whoever they are, like musician wise, like sometimes they're not in the best mood, and that should be okay. Like they can't coddle to like what you personally want with the artist and stuff. Like say if you see them on the side of the streets, like, hey, how's it going? Like, dude, it's a lot, man. Like, especially if you're going on a long run. Like, I mean, what's the longest you've ever done? Was probably like 4 months straight, 2 months straight, 3 months.
It's tough. So when I first joined Like Moss, since I was the only person not in Columbus, I think I went out about a week ahead of time. We went into Scream It Like You Mean It tour, Attack, and We Came as Romans. So way back, yeah. And that in itself was probably about 6 to 7 weeks. And then at the time, we were doing Australia right after. So I went back to Columbus with the band. I was there for about a week, and then we flew out. We did about 3 weeks in Australia, then came back. And then a week and a half after that, we started the AP tour with Miss May I and Ghost Inside and stuff. Maybe there was a little bit more space there, but it was like a 3 in a row. Or pretty much 3 in a row. And that was a lot. But also, like, kind of like as a touring wise as well, we did do, I'm spacing on the year, but we did one tour in the States with Story of the Year. And then that was about 6 weeks. And we actually had to drop the last 2 days of the tour to fly to Europe and do a Parkway Drive tour. And they did like European Warped Tour. So it was like 5 dates of European Warped Tour, and then during the week you would tour like throughout mainland Europe or whatever, whoever tour you're on. So yeah, it was Parkway Drive, We Came as Romans, Memphis Mayfire, Like Moss. The 3 of us underneath were all in a bus together. So it was literally like 6 weeks in America, and then immediately fly over to Europe. Then you do 6 weeks in November to December of Europe, which obviously the shows were amazing. Parkway Drive's huge over there.
100%.
But at the same time, though, like, you're getting out of the bus and pulling, and it's like 3 p.m. and it's pitch black, and you're just like, I don't know what to do with myself. Like you're loaded in or you play, but you're in the middle of nothing and fucking the middle of nowhere, and you're just like, man, and you don't have cell service, like you can't really talk unless you're somehow finding Wi-Fi or somehow doing anything like that. So it gets tough, and it's, it gets long, it gets tough, and a lot of people don't really think that, because, you go up and you play your 30-minute set, but the other 23 and a half hours a day, it's like, what are you doing, so it's tough. But, at the same time, they're really grateful for all those opportunities, and like playing all those like massive shows and learning a lot of things. But yeah, definitely just like the mental health standpoint, but that's why you got to make sure you align yourself and have a good group of guys in the band and stuff like that, and making sure that everybody, around you is all on the same page and knows you're all give and takes and stuff like that. Because if you have trouble in the home camp, it's definitely tough to continue to go out and, portray that everything is going well and stay sane for the most part.
Dude, seriously, and you guys went through a lot, considering that was kind of like the introduction and like a half and half peak of metalcore was like the 2013 and up, like AA, We Car, Oh Sleeper, Like Moths, Miss May I, Bring Me the Horizon. I keep going on, dude. Parkway, but like there was a lot. Like I remember like being at Warped Tour 2013, and like I want to say like 70% of the bill was metalcore. I was like, holy shit, like this is insane. Like, this is like, a movement. So you guys are definitely busy.
That was an experience in itself doing the US Warped Tour that year as well. That was the first time any of us ever done it. The Air I Breathe, we did the Ernie Ball stage one year. We won some online competition, but that was the first year, like Moss, we really did it. And the second album came out, and it was amazing, and there was a lot of bands on our stage and around that it was like some of just like the sickest bands, and a lot of things I took for granted. The fact that the Chariot was on our stage, I felt like I watched them a lot. like Chariot. It was just like it was like Murderer's Row. Like it would be like Chariot and then Architects and then Black Dahlia Murder and then Let Live and Silverstein, and it was just like every like you'd go and you'd look at the lineup and you'd be like for the next 4 hours it's all just like absolute killers down the line. So that was cool. And then obviously, like Bring Me just dropped Sempiternal like 2 months before
Dude.
that tour. So, like literally on fire, and they just have not been on fire since then. So yeah, that was a really fun summer for sure.
Oh, I can only imagine. Yeah, Bring Me the Horizon, dude. I mean, like they're a perfect band that evolved over time. But like I remember that album dropping. It was like that was also like the one album that kind of also helped the movement of the genre in itself because it's just like so fucking good. And
Yeah.
oh my
They,
god, dude, I miss those days. I think I played the Ernie Ball stage in 13. It had to have been 13 because I was in a metalcore band too. We were all right, dude. My band, I love those bandmates, but there was one particular member I was like, I'm gonna fucking get in trouble if I hang around this dude because he sucks. Like I can't fucking be around this shit. Like going back to
so
what we were saying, like the ego, fucking. I was like, dude, I can't handle you. Like no.
there's always one, man. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, you can guess what fucking instrument he played.
Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely guess, or lack thereof. That's for sure.
Jesus Christ. Going back though, so like you're doing all this at the same time. So now mostly you have the promoting, booking gigs and such, like in New Jersey with House of Independence and stuff, and the Air I Breathe is coming out with new stuff. So you just recently walked away from Like Moths, or like what happened? Like, is that just something you decided that you didn't want to have time for anymore, or?
Yeah, so that was 2000, January-ish, 2019, I want to say. So yeah, it wasn't anything, too grim or anything like that as
That's
well.
good.
It was just kind of one of those things. It was like, like with Tape, like we started touring in, 2010, pretty hard, and and not to a lot of people at first before we got signed. So,
Mm-hmm.
it was like a long period of my time in my life, that it's like, you only have a couple months of the year that you're at home experiencing a lot of things. And I think one of the main things too is that like once I started promoting and working on like while I was still touring, but like really kind of dive into the other side of the industry that really, really caught my attention. I really loved that, and it almost kind of like reignited like being in high school, booking shows and stuff, like hustling for things and like blah 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 and stuff like that. And I did love touring and stuff, but it kind of got to a point for me that I was just a little bit done with the road. We had just done like a really long, extensive headliner off of like a really long album cycle from Dark Divine. And I just felt like super burnt out, and kind of through the whole tour, because I was also tour managing Like Moss at the time. Everybody in the
That's a
band kind
lot.
of like, yeah, we didn't really have that much crew at the time. We had Johnny, our photographer, and then Alex was like our doer of everything else. He did like lights, he did merch, he helped with pretty much everything in between, all the stage duties. So it was basically like the five of us and the two of them, and we all kind of picked up our own responsibilities and whatnot. Like Chris does. I mean, he did 100% of all the merch designs and everything like Moss has put out probably over the last
No
6 months.
way.
Probably still does.
That's
Yeah,
incredible.
he does like really. So that's the work in itself that I've never even gone into that world of any type of graphic design. So he does like everybody kind of has their own thing that they did within the band. But yeah, I think it was just kind of like a little bit of like an accumulation of things and kind of just like building to like a general burnout. And I was like, hey, I really, I love touring. I love everything I've done with it, but I think I really want to make a push to hop to the other side of the music industry, still stay in it with everything else going on, still be friendly to everyone, figure out a way to still somewhat play music, but I think kind of put down like, the touring side of it and really dive into it and kind of expand my knowledge on things, my work on things, and just hop into some new opportunities. Like I wish I had a cool story of like, any of us getting in a fight or anything like that or whatnot. But I actually just saw them at they came through, they played Electric Factory on the August Burns Red tour, and it was the first day of the tour.
Mm-hmm.
And it was funny because I was texting Fish, Zach, the guitar player,
Yeah.
and I was like, yeah, I'm going to be out, blah, blah, blah. He's like, dude, we can't hang out. We can't go to restaurants. We can't do this, blah, blah, blah. And this was like, I think this was mid-September. I'm like, dude, it's like, man, I just want to see Like Moss Live, and obviously Fit for a King was on that tour. We toured with them
Yeah.
a billion times, and Era, I've done them a million times, and ABR, we did a tour with them in Australia with Northlane. So it was like really cool package, and it was just cool to like watch Like Moss with me not in it and like see what those songs sounded like live and
Interesting.
stuff. So
Yeah,
it was
now
a little
you're
bit,
the fan. You know what I mean? Like you're
they were
stepping in
definitely
those
fans.
shoes.
Yeah, yeah, and the guy that had playing drums for them was like a million times better than I was. So it was like
Oh,
really like
dude, stop.
they were really good though. They were really good. And it was like first day of tour, and like that's the whole thing. Like I had all like the dialogue in my head, right? Like first day of tour, like blah blah blah. It's this. It's all you haven't been on stage in like a year and a half. I'm like, oh, like they're probably all thinking they're gonna come out rusty and everything, but no, they came out hard, and it was a really impressive set because opening tours like that is one of the hardest things to do. A lot of people don't understand that. They're always like, oh, it's cool. You got the opening slot of this massive tour. That's the hardest position to be in for any tour because, you're coming out, you're doing 30 minutes, you're coming out as hopefully the venue has gotten most of these people in. Like, hopefully they've given you an hour from doors to when you start. And you're playing to like a completely cold crowd, a completely cold. So it's really tough because even if those people know your band or whatnot, it's like, everyone looks around like, oh, are you moshing? Are you doing this? Are you like jumping when the vocalist tells you to jump? Are you like, blah, blah, blah. So there's always this, like, you come out and it's like first song, you got to come out with like this really big attack, right? And like really just like dive. And even if like everybody in the crowd is just standing still, like you need to make sure that you're like, all right, song 2's coming up. We're going to hit him with this, hit him with this. Because the main goal of a lot of those tours when you're the opening band, and most of the time if you're the opening band on a bigger tour, majority of the crowd doesn't, or maybe hasn't seen you or doesn't really know who you are. The main goal is by the end that you've won the crowd over and that you've made that first impression, because that's the whole goal. It's not to come out and have everybody scream the opening lyrics of your first song. Maybe they do, that's amazing, but it's really winning the crowd over. It's a tough spot to be in for sure.
It's very tough. Yeah, especially when you're in uncharted waters. Like that's why some tour packages, like when it's like, why is this band on the bill? That doesn't make sense. Like let's like the Deer Hunter to Coheed and Cambria, but then like all of a sudden everybody loves the Deer Hunter now, even though they're vastly different from Coheed. So it's like, but they put on that show right out the gate, and they're like, hey, we're here to fucking hang out and have a good time. So here's our best, and they definitely got to get the attention of a lot of people.
Yeah, and one of my favorite bands right now is this band called the band Camino.
Oh, I love them, dude. Try Hard was my fucking album.
It's like all my Spotify Wrapped is their last two, or their new album and then the last album. But yeah, I went and saw the Dangerous Summer in Philly a couple years ago, and the band Camino was the opening band, and I missed them. It was them, Microwave, and the Dangerous Summer.
Oh, that's a fucking lineup.
Yeah, and AJ, singer of Dangerous Summer, said something on stage because obviously, like shouting out the opening bands, and he was like, yeah, if you miss the band Camino, like the next time you see them will be like they're probably going to open for Taylor Swift or something like that, or blah blah blah. And I was just like, just being nice or whatever. And then like maybe like 2 years later, Try Hard came out, and I was like, this band is insanely good. Like just
so good.
I think they just supported like Dan and Shay on a sold out arena tour, and I'm sure that they're only going to just become the biggest band on earth. So,
and what helped them too is they opened up for 5 Seconds of Summer, so they got like all of those fucking teenagers for like, if we want to talk about like for demographic wise, like dude, holy shit, like that thrived them for sure.
Yeah, no, that's that's a little bit out of my like normal listen zone, but they are just such amazing songwriters, and it's just absolute hook city. So I love it, man. They're one of my favorite bands right now.
Well, when you see Rory when he comes to house, talk to him about the band Camino, because he also is obsessed with them, dude. I think we almost went on a whole segment just talking about that band. I had to clip it up.
That's another dude. I mean, I know we talked about them a little bit, but Rory and Dayseeker, Sleep Talk, like there's like a couple like hooks on that I'm just like absolutely amazed anyone wrote, like any human wrote. And then like it's just so, especially for like the genre and stuff like that, and the dude's voice is like unique and maybe one of my favorite in the entire scene. And then I saw them at that the We Car show, and I was like, this dude absolutely does not miss. So that show will definitely, it's already selling amazingly, and I think they're just one of those bands that's just gonna take this massive jump into a different world, because they tour with a lot of these metalcore bands and stuff like that, and I think they do well with them, but I think that band's going to ascend in something that's totally different. Like I think they're going to be one of those that kind of elevates into like just like a new world. So I'm excited
yeah,
to
they
watch
will
that.
definitely be a staple within this scene for sure. I'm sure like the first thing you did when you saw them was like, I gotta get them booked now. Like, let me get that
No,
tour.
absolutely. Yeah. I
Do
feel
you
like I've
fight for
had them a
that?
couple times, and it's what?
Do you like fight to try to book those tours? Like, how do you go about that? Like, who's making the pitch?
So most of the time, the agents know which promoters are in which market. So like if they want to go into Asbury and they want to go to House, they'll email me and say, "Hey, send me holds for April 1st through April 15th. Here's the tour. It's Dayseeker, blah 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 blah, or whatever. Send me an offer or whatever that may be."
Okay.
Sometimes it's me seeking it out if I hear from either like promoter friends something's going around. But yeah, it's normally, so the agents always send out like an email with the tour on it. Who's it going to be? Mostly the headliner, and then the date range, and then you send them an offer for what you think it's worth. They come back and tell you it's too low, no matter what it is, and then you fight back and forth. Then you get to your number and everything like that, get it confirmed, and then from there on, then like a couple weeks later, they'll say, "Hey, we're going to announce this tour next week." Get the ad mat together, localized, and everything like that, and then boom, it announces, and everybody posts. So only once in a while do I have to go and like dig for something. More so if I want to like specifically go after an artist, or if I'm like putting a show together, like if it's like a holiday thing or something like that, like I'll dig a little bit. Or if I see a tour get announced that I want and there's like an off date or a couple off dates in the Northeast, I'll reach out to the agent and say, "Hey, let's, are you planning on doing Jersey?" Sometimes they'll be in radius clause, or sometimes they're like, "Hey, we just played it. We don't want to hit the market again so soon." So a bunch of different factors. But yeah, the agent who does Dayseeker used to book, or still does book, but books Like Moths, he books Ice Nine, he books a lot of those bands. So, he normally, everything we do in Jersey and stuff like that normally would go through me or whatever. So it's kind of like just years of building relationships and stuff like that, which is also kind of the strength of being in the band, and then also being a promoter and stuff like that. You can definitely make sure you're meeting a lot of people as you go through life, really.
That and the cap room in general for Asbury, dude, I think is like probably, if not the biggest, next to like Stone Pony Summer Stage. I'm sure. Like, what else could be bigger in Asbury Park that could actually support those feet?
Um, yeah. So House of Independence is 500. The Lanes is 725, and then
Interesting.
the indoor of the Pony is 900 ish, and then I think the outdoor, I think they pushed to like 2,500. I've actually never been to a show at the Summer Stage before,
It's good
but
time. It's a good time.
yeah, I've definitely wanted to dig in over there about maybe like I've always in the back of my mind, like I always really want to put together some type of festival, right? Like something that's like
Mhm.
very specific, whether that being Summer Stage, or going straight to the beach with it and doing it like See Here Now. Like they're obviously, that's a totally different like genre and everything like that, but setting up some type of formula like that to bring something back, because I think Asbury Park is one of the best markets in the country. Like it's a really like a hidden gem as far as draw wise and where you are in the scheme of things, and like just general location wise. And the city now is, it's a beautiful city. So yeah, I think so. In the next couple of years, we'll start to formulate something like that on the Concert Crave and do something cool down there. We always talk about it, but
Fuck yeah.
it's got to be the right time. It's got to be the right thing, and really have it really nailed together well. So,
No, that's fucking awesome though. And Bamboozle's coming back too in like 2022, so that's interesting. So we'll see how that goes. I've only been to Bamboozle once, so
yeah, I used to go back in the like 2007 or 2008
yeah, literally the
last
same
time,
time.
and
Yeah.
then yeah, and then The Air I Breathe, we played it, and on the first tour we did, the Artery Young Guns tour, as a signed band, and we got to play Bamboozle. The last year it was at Giant Stadium or whatever,
I think
and
so.
that was like a huge thing for us as a Jersey band to like be able to play Bamboozle, and it was like amazing. You play in front of like 10, 15,000 people. It was an amazing time. There is some, I'm sure there's some videos of that on YouTube somewhere.
Oh,
So,
100%. You
but
just gotta
yeah,
really
that
do
was
some deep
definitely a
diving.
bucket list.
So
Yeah, that was the
out of everything that you've spoken to me like passionately about, because like this is something that like you have been doing for quite some time. Me just being curious. So what's the most gratifying thing that you do when you start booking these shows? And is it after, before, during the show? Like what like keeps you so upbeat to like pursuing this, because it's very passionate of yours. I can obviously tell. Everybody can obviously tell when you're throwing these massive shows: Lorna Shore, Knocked Loose, Dayseeker, all of that jazz.
Yeah. I think it's just like I definitely have some type of like connection with that in this scene and in New Jersey. And I feel like when I kind of came up in Tabe, like there wasn't really, unless we were like throwing the local shows at, some VFW or something like that, there wasn't like a constant place that would get these shows in there. It's like the Street Cafe, and that closed when I was like 15. And there was like Main Stage in Pompton Lakes, and then that closed. And like there's been all these like little pockets, but it was always important to me to make sure that like awesome shows always came through New Jersey, and that like I had a hand in it. And I don't know. I also love seeing bands like like Lorna Shore, for instance. Like they've always played, like whenever they had headlined Jersey years before that, it would either be at like Champs or a Dingbats or like these small different things. And it would just be like a random tour date, and they would throw it in there and stuff like that. And, I've known Austin, he was in a band called Bandit Bandit when he was probably like 14 and 15. And like The Air I Breathe used to play shows with them like year, like 2007, we're talking. So I've like known that dude, for a while. And I mean, believe it or not, Lorna Shore is actually like an offspring from The Air I Breathe, from like way back. And, so I've always, we like kind of built the show together and stuff like that, and wanted to give them like a real, New Jersey headliner. And then when the show went up, the tickets just started flying, and I was like, and that's the same day like the single dropped and everything like that. And I was like really like that show sold out 6 weeks in advance, and that was a show I thought was gonna like maybe do 100 tickets online, and we would like push it across, get some locals on it or something like that, and really have to drive it. And it was like a really like I was really happy for them, because that's a band that's they've gone through a lot, they've dealt with a lot, and I think that what they're doing right now is like super well deserved. And I think that they're another band that's about to ascend into even another fucking world. So I think I'm really really pumped for them, and I'm going to continue to do it, and I'm sure we're going to do some awesome stuff in 2022 together, and
Fuck yeah, absolutely.
probably a bigger room together. So that'll be something cool. That'll come together soon, probably soon. Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt that, because like I can already see it now how smooth. Because like when we worked with you, when we did that one show when we opened up for Toy at House, like that process was so smooth, dude. Like there was just no issues. It was like literally we got on stage, played, off, boom, next band, on, off, boom, next band, on, off. Like, and I didn't even have to fucking bring my drum set. So shout out to Robin for letting me use his whole entire kit. I was like, you know what, dude, like. We're like 10 minutes overtime. I'll just fucking hop on. Like like I'll change like adjustments to your China that I won't hit, and like the hi-hat. Like that's it. So let's get this show rolling. So fucking absolutely. That show is killer shit. So
yeah, I'm actively trying to find something down in the area, a little bit smaller of a venue, but something that can do, more frequent local shows to build up the local scene a little bit more, because there's a lot of great talent across all genres in the area, New Jersey, tri-state area, and stuff like that, that I think, we need a little bit of a home. Like, the brewery in Asbury Park would do shows, but I know that they closed and moved locations. And then, there's a couple others, but I'd love to kind of, so like, that's another project of mine for the next year or two. I'm going to try to find some type of room or, do something. There was a great spot in New Brunswick called Chamber 43 that started doing a bunch of shows. And then obviously, I believe that they closed a little while ago, and I think they might be building a new location now. I'm not sure if they are. And then there's another great spot, the Flemington DIY, that's actually starting to build out a new spot as well. So, yeah, definitely working on a lot, and trying to support a lot of these, any of the DIY venues or venues going on. I'm trying to give everybody shows and everybody stuff, or even just consult, if they need me to if they're asking questions about things, I try to be as involved as I can.
Dude, you're definitely extremely transparent, and there's definitely no doubt about that whatsoever. But you're right though, because like it was hard for us, for the local scene especially. We had this place called the Clubhouse for a hot minute, and like that went under because of
That's
COVID too.
Jimmy Mura's.
That's Jimmy Mura's. Yeah, he's not doing it anymore,
Yeah.
dude. He can't.
Mm.
He lost the
Is
venue.
it still like a room, or is it like is it still a venue, or the whole place just closed?
He just lost the venue. I think he like did not renew the lease or whatever. Like he just lost the venue. Like and he said it was so exhausting and tiresome that like it was just not worth it anymore. I was like, totally feel you, dude, because he was doing it at a boathouse and it was like free because I think his parents were, you know, again DIY. You just walk in for free or whatever, and so I think the local kids are. I mean, Red Bank has the brewing does it. I've been trying to get my ears and eyes into like the local scene, and because I'm a local fucking kid, you know, in Jersey technically, so definitely trying to find those venues. I don't really see much of them around as much as I used to, but they got to be out there somewhere.
I just might make one. Might just come to the point that it's like just make something like I'd love to do some type of like bar venue combo, but something that's a little bit smaller, but that can also survive on itself if there isn't a show, right? So like if it's just a Thursday night and you want to do like a theme night or something like that, or people just want to come in and chill, or find a place in that general area if bands are playing a show and they want to come hang out after, anything like that, or beforehand, or do little intimate cool things. Like I feel like that'd be something I'd interested in, and that'll be a project for me in the next year or 2 years. That'll be something I'll definitely knock out, because I want to continue to just build the culture and build the community down here, and
fuck yeah, absolutely. If you ever want some extra hands, let me know. I love this shit, dude. That's why I do this podcast. That's why I put my stupid face on TikTok, which has worked wonders, dude. You'd be surprised.
Yeah, man, that TikTok presence you built up is
fucking
extremely impressive.
Yeah. Thank you. It's stupid. I'm still trying to figure it out, but I'm definitely proud of that. Real quick before we sign off, did you ever hear of Sacred Grounds out in Bucks County, Pennsylvania?
Mm-mm.
Oh man, that was a DIY venue. This guy George booked shows there. He doesn't do it anymore. I think the biggest act that came through was I Set to Kill. And it was like in a Quaker building of some sort. And there was a graveyard there, but it was making out and doing all that shit on the couches and shit. I was like, fucking pure teenage angst emo days, dude. Like that's where everybody get smoking cigarettes, gauges, fucking piercings everywhere. Like it was so cool. I miss those days. But yeah, dude, I think you're gonna be taking over the New Jersey local scene soon, as well as building these massive fucking shows for House in Asbury Park. Totally
I hope
can see
so,
it.
Man.
Totally
I
see
hope
it.
so, dude. There's a lot of talent here, and everywhere, and that's kind of like the overall, I guess, passion of mine is just artist development in general. So, any way I can be a resource or help people out, man, sign me up.
You know as much as the next person does, that's for sure. But I appreciate you taking the time coming on here. I again thank you for taking care of us for that show that we had on Saturday. It felt good to be on a big stage like that in front of like a couple hundred people. It felt good again. Good sound system, everything, the whole house. It's a beautiful aesthetic. People love that venue. Anytime I talk about House on social media or whatever, people just like love the venue in itself, and they also say like the people that work there are just as great as the venue itself.
Yeah.
So, but again, dude, like for real, like appreciate you doing everything for the scene. I'm stoked for the future with what you're doing. I can only imagine the shows that I personally don't know and nobody knows what's going to be booked next at that venue or any other venues that you book.
That is for sure. A lot of things to come. A lot of things to come for next year. And yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on, and appreciate you. Always you and Poeta always playing shows and stuff like that, and keeping a lot of things alive, dude. It's goes both ways. I don't think it's tough even in the local. I remember being a local band. I don't know what it would have been like if there was a random 18-month hiatus being in a local band, if you could all pull it back together, and still have the passion amongst other things to play shows, and so that's awesome, and I'm glad that you guys are still doing the thing too.
Yeah, we'll be coming out with an album next year. It's done tracked, so the momentum is coming. I'm gonna control the marketing on this one. Let's just say that.
There we go.
So that way we can sell out House. That's the idea.
As should. Yeah. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
I'm coming for you, TikTok. I'm coming for you. But again, I appreciate you so much.